Thank you very much. I would ask our Under the Sea folks, I know I said that wrong, if you would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And at the end, I ask that we remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Daniel Prager, who was a bus driver here at PV Schools since 2014.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can we have another round of applause for our performers? May we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Matura? Here. Mrs. Greenberg?
Here.
Mrs. Bacon?
Here.
Mrs. Brown is absent this evening. Mrs. Case?
Here. Approval of agenda.
Walk out and back in.
Is that the mic on the kids?
Yeah, one of the performers' mics is still on. We'll turn it over to Dr. Bales. We do have one change.
This is for an agenda. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board or audience may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. I would like to offer the agenda as posted.
Thank you. Does any member of the governing board wish to move anything from the consent agenda? Is any member of the audience? Seeing none, Mrs. Case, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have an agenda. Next is governing board statements. Mrs. Matura?
Hello. I was able to see The Little Mermaid a couple of weeks ago when they were at Shadow Mountain, and it actually worked out really well. I had a conflict that evening, but I was able to view it online streaming from home, so I didn't miss it. And I'm assuming that's been a really nice option for grandparents and relatives from all across the country to be able to see their family members in shows like this. So I hope people are able to take advantage of that. But it really was great seeing some of the performers here tonight. So it's nice to have the music back in the governing board room. So I appreciate that. I've recently been able to spend some time in some of our self-contained classrooms, and I wanted to say how impressed I am with the students in our district. Students are working so hard to overcome their challenges, and it's been a privilege to see their successes, to smile at their humor, and to watch the relationships they have built with other students and their teachers and staff. This is why we all do what we do. We care about the kids in our district and want to provide opportunities for each and every one of them to flourish in our schools. I feel very fortunate to have been able to see our programs in action. I was thrilled to be at the ribbon cutting this week for our rebuilt Roadrunner campus, a campus designed around the needs of our students. I'm also glad our district is modifying the quarantine procedures to allow healthy students to remain in class, because that is the goal, to keep the kids in school with their teachers. So I wanted to also wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with your families and friends, and enjoy the holiday.
Thank you. Mrs. Case?
I think I have my holidays mixed up. Sorry about that. Just a minor eye surgery. Okay, so lots of involvement recently, and I just want to talk about a couple things. We were able to go to the dedication of Sky Crossing, and it was so exciting to see a school in operation that the principal jumped right in and got his theme, the community got the theme chosen, and it was spectacular. It was just so exciting to see Sky Crossing having been involved in the early stages of approving things. Also, we had student voice this week, and the students that we got to listen to really are speaking their minds and explaining some things from their opinions on the subjects we talked about. And their ideas are, they're amazing. And in a short amount of time, I, I I mean, they come up with really good things. One of the things we talked about was communication and their need for the opportunities to have more communications because of limited shutdown. And some of the ideas that I heard at UPC this week were really good, and ways to reach out into the community and help kids, instead of being on their devices, to be able to learn to communicate verbally. And some really good ideas came up. And I got to attend The Little Mermaid. And I'm telling you, I have been hoping for a performance like this from how does that, NVC? NVAA, sorry, alphabet soup's not my specialty. NVAA, and they included students from Desert Cove, Shea Middle School, and Shadow Mountain. And it was spectacular. You heard them, and I wish they were still here to tell them how much. And I got to speak to some of the parents after the performance. And yes, they were bursting their bubbles with really good reason. But everything about it, I was thrilled that that was coming together the way it is. So shout out to Shadow Mountain and those schools there for putting on Disney's The Little Mermaid. And however that was able to be performed in our district, because you have to pay big bucks to Disney, period. That's just how it works. I'm just grateful that these kids have the opportunity. And oh my goodness, you didn't get to see Sebastian act tonight, but oh my goodness, it was amazing. How she did the crab. Oh, anyway, Little Mermaid's one of my favorites. And they did, I just felt like these students, I kept saying, oh, this is high school, but they did such a good job. It was really amazing. But I had to remind myself because the singing was phenomenal. So fun things going on in our district. And I too am grateful that we're changing and keeping more healthy kids in school, as it should be. And I'm grateful that everyone is trying to do our best to make things as what they just did at Shadow Mountain more back to normal. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Bacon?
Yeah, I also had the opportunity to go to Sky Crossing and Roadrunner for those ribbon cuttings. And I think in particular, Roadrunner students being so proud of their new facilities, and it was really touching to see their enthusiasm about it. We did have student voice, which is always enlightening, and our kids are bright, and they are not shy about telling us what they think about things, which is good. That's exactly what we need to hear. And I just want to wish everyone a relaxing, healthy, happy, safe Thanksgiving.
Yes, I also was at both of our, both of our ribbon cuttings, and the energy at both was incredible. Sky Crossing is quite a unique design for our district, but quite a beautiful one for where it is, and the enthusiasm there was definitely matched by the enthusiasm at Roadrunner, and I'm so pleased that our district has been able to use our bond funds so wisely in creating a school at Roadrunner that meets the unique kids of these, the unique needs of these very unique students and their faculty. And so it really was an honor to be at both. And unfortunately, I wasn't at Little Mermaid, but pleased we were able to see at least part of the performance. And I also want to wish everybody a very happy and relaxing Thanksgiving as we head into the holiday. Next on the agenda are awards and recognitions, and I will turn it over to Matt.
Yes. Good evening, President Greenberg, governing board members, Dr. Bales, members of cabinet, and attendees, both in person and virtual. Tonight, we have 3 employee recognitions to share with you. Our first recognition is the recipient of the 2021 High School Science Teacher of the Year Award, presented by the Arizona Science Teachers Association. Please join me in congratulating Crest Bioscience teacher from Paradise Valley High School, Amanda Cherry. Our next recognition is the recipient of the Paradise Valley Education Association's Recognition of Professional Standards Award for Teachers. Ms. Susie Seep, PVEA President, will have the honor of introducing tonight's honoree.
Thank you, President Greenberg, Dr. Bales, Governing Board, and Cabinet. If I could take an aside, I am lucky enough to have subbed in Miss Cherry's classroom a few weeks ago as part of the district subbing rotation. And her sophomore students ran the whole thing. Like, she's an incredible teacher with incredible students. I'm so proud to have that teacher in our district, and congratulations to her. But tonight, please join me in celebrating the amazing Bahana Verma. She's a computer science teacher, a colleague of Miss Cherry's. She works at PVHS also. Her colleague, Rini Samuels, nominated her. She said, I recommend Bahana Verma, a computer teacher at PVHS, not only because she is an awesome teacher, but she is a great colleague. Her students love her, share their concerns, they seek advice, not just in academic matters, but life in general. She's developed that kind of rapport with her students. Bahana is a great support to the rest of the team. She brings her industry technological experience to the table. She rescues many of us who find it difficult to keep up with the changes. She is so immensely patient and kind. She's always ready to help with a smile. She's an advisor to 4 clubs because she believes it helps her know her students better. Her enthusiasm to make a difference to the students is evident in the fact that she continues to teach at PV when highly lucrative jobs are beckoning her. Bahana is a computer science engineer. She's worked in banking, finance, and telecommunications as a Java and C# developer before she pursued her passion of teaching. She's currently pursuing an MS degree to support the program, where she teaches 6 college courses through 4 classes: IT Essentials, Networking 1-2, Networking 3-4, and AP Computer Science. She says, my students are my why. I plan to use my new MS to strengthen my lab and earn more of the most important equipment that my students need. I feel so lucky to be her colleague, and I can tell you that her students feel so lucky to have her as a teacher. She's here tonight with Rebecca McGowan, who's the head of our CTE program, and I thank her for choosing Paradise Valley, and thank you for giving me this opportunity tonight.
The last recognition of the evening is the Paradise Valley Education Support Professional of the Month. PVSEA President, Ms. Michelle Courtright, will be making the presentation.
President Greenberg, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, and Cabinet. It is my pleasure this month to award the ESP of the Month to Tara Essery. She is a media tech at Echo Mountain Intermediate. And as many of you know, we don't have librarians in very many sites anymore. Those libraries are now being run by an ESP, a media tech. And this year and last year, it got very creative because these are also the people that manage the Chromebooks. So I don't know if you've ever sent anything home with an elementary school student, but it doesn't come back looking exactly the same as it did. So they were tasked with taking these in, cleaning them up, figuring out which ones can be used, along with doing their regular jobs, which is monitoring all the iPads, all the technology, making sure we have good books on the shelves, running our AR program. And Tara is new to the program. And in her first 2 weeks, on top of learning everything there was about being a media tech, she also handled the complex task of a brand new math intervention program. Not only did she get that up and running, but she's also kept rosters, and she's kept them current all through COVID absences and a very transient student population. One of the things that was written about her is that students love working with her during checkout and discussing interesting titles. She encourages reading. She's made some cute displays and colorful things to draw the kids in, but she also went a little bit farther. And she made a display that teachers can put their favorite books on. It has the name of the teacher. It has a photograph of the teacher, and sitting around that are all books that that teacher has recommended. So when a student walks in there, they can walk up and they can read a book that their teachers love. And all of us know that elementary school students love doing anything that their teachers like. These are the kind of employees that we have in our district, and it is with pleasure that I award this to Tara Esser this week, or this month. Thank you.
And that concludes awards and recognitions for this evening.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is call to the public. Because our meetings are made available to a virtual audience, Paradise Valley Unified School District has implemented a process to collect virtual public comments. Members of the public wishing to submit these comments to the governing board for this meeting were able to do so by completing the public comment form located on the homepage of the district's website. In order to be included in tonight's meeting, members of the public were encouraged to complete the public comment form by noon today. It is important to note all comments related to board agenda items that were received by today's noon deadline were provided to all governing board members and to the superintendent's office in advance of tonight's meeting. These comments will not be read aloud during the meeting. We'd like to thank our community for voicing their thoughts and providing comments for tonight's meeting. We received a total of 3 comment submissions. Members of the public present at this meeting wishing to address the board on items not listed on the agenda completed speaker cards to be recognized during call to the public. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot discuss or take action on any items not listed on the agenda. We have 11 cards for call to the public and another for the agenda. So that's 12 total. So each speaker will have 3 minutes for their remarks. Members of the public who have asked to speak on agenda items will be recognized to do so at the appropriate time during the meeting. We appreciate your input, but please understand that board members may direct questions or comments to staff and other members of the board. Please state your first and last name prior to sharing your comment. The point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand and to be able to do so openly and collaboratively. To that end, everyone attending the board meeting, whether speaking to the board or not, is expected to observe our meeting rules as well as rules of politeness, propriety, decorum, and good conduct. And the first call to the public, or the first yellow card we have, is Fred Iles.
Hello, I'm Dr. Fred Iles. If you watch TV and believe it's there to inform or entertain you, you'll never understand anything. If you understand that the TV is there to misinform and entrain you, then you'll understand everything. Last night on Blaze TV, Glenn Beck gave a well-researched expose on the engineering of the coronavirus, including Dr. Death Fauci and the Bat Lady. Our government paid for the gain-of-function research in Wuhan with our tax dollars and signed an agreement with Moderna for the patent rights to the mRNA vaccine. Now it mandates the vaccine for its own profit, won't let doctors use ivermectin or hydrochloroquine to treat COVID-19, and won't let the people with natural immunity, religious objections, or medical objections keep their jobs without taking the jab. All the emails and contracts behind this crime of the century are on the web. If you'd like to see them, I've got the sources. Now the government wants to mandate vaccines for school children ages 5 to 11. I beg of you, please don't allow that. Our kids don't need the jab. They don't get sick from COVID. Please. You can determine for yourself if the government is following the science by using your doctor's microscope to look at a sample of your own blood with a drop of the vaccine on it. You will notice that wherever the vaccine touches your blood, it turns dark, killing the hemoglobin. Now your cells cannot carry oxygen to the cells in your body, so you become tired, fatigued, and short of breath. It also causes blood clotting, myocarditis, pericarditis, Bell's palsy, and death. Here's a picture of your doctor, with the blood cells that are alive and well, and then the pictures of what happens to the blood after the vaccine touches it. You see how dark it gets? Hemoglobin can't work, and that's why you feel tired and fatigued and short of breath afterwards. Our shadow government is working with big pharma, mainstream media, corporate tycoons, and the CCP to fake a COVID pandemic and hype the statistics to breed fear in the nations of the world like a Trojan horse to drive them to take the vaccine, which is the real bioweapon. The variants are the vaccine injuries. Now that the US is 70% vaccinated, the infection rate and death rates are rising, and breakthrough cases abound along with horrible adverse events and deaths. It makes us sicker every year because Dr. Fauci knows that a cured patient isn't a profitable patient. So his company, Moderna, made $8 billion this year, and they shared it with the government and the mainstream media. Right now, the emergency use authorization and the illegality of the criminal conspiracy that gave rise to that emergency use authorization is the issue. That's the main issue. So I'm putting my life energy where it belongs. We can't lose the kids. If we lose that, we lose everything. What can compare to saving the next generation from a mass murdering, genocidal, psychopathic group of criminals who have decided that they can look in the eyes of a 5-year-old with contempt and chain down beagle puppies to see what happens when sand fleas eat them alive? And Fauci cuts out the doctor's vocal cords because the dog's barking and cries bother him. This is worse than the Stasi. The thing we are living through right now is not a public health emergency. A weapon.
Thank you. Your time is up, Dr. Iles. The next card is from Barbara Jennings.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I don't know if it was mentioned because I came just in the nick of time, but what happened with Scottsdale School Board and Jan Greenberg, and I'm hoping that it's no relation or we are going to be in big trouble. The inappropriateness, the way they spied on parents, the gathering of information, including bankruptcy, all financial, home rentals, just very inappropriate personal information that they gathered on parents. This was horrendous and should not be allowed. It's criminal activity. And yet we're supposed to feel confident that we come to these school board meetings and you guys are going to listen to us. That's where this all stems from, is school boards are not listening. Parents are frustrated. And instead of addressing the critical race theory and social and emotional learning, and the sexual pornography and inappropriate materials that are being pushed in our schools, they start spying on parents. I am hoping this is not going to be something that we're going to need to address with our school board, but I also think there needs to be transparency regarding, everybody keeps on saying we're not teaching critical race theory. It is. It is in our school. This avid, not camp, I can't think of appropriate word, but that we're sending our teachers to in Texas, which is costing $1,400 to $1,450 per teacher to go, has social emotional learning in a lot of those sections. For us, as our taxpayer money is going to these type of teachings that we don't want in our school. This is divisive. It's non-factual. It's hurtful to our children's social and emotional learning, yet it keeps on being pushed. When is it going to stop? Now like they go to, school boards are going to horrific measures, including in Chandler and involving police to to threaten be a threatening presence for people to show up at these meetings. This has to stop. You guys have to start listening to us. We don't want this in our school. It is not helpful to our children. We want to believe that you want to enrich our kids, enrich their minds, enrich their emotional learning, but you're poisoning them with this divisive, racist teachings. So I hope you can reconsider what you're doing, because we are watching and we are not going to quit. These are our children and we want them to be healthy. We want them to learn and grow. We don't want them to hate one of their students because they're a different color or feel like they're given advantages because they're another color. It's just so horrific what is going on. So I really hope that each of you really, really take into heart what you are bringing into our schools as far as the curriculum. Thank you.
Denise Cambron.
Good evening. My name is Denise Cambron. I have an issue with accountability. I've always taught my children that they are to be held accountable for their actions. And at the last meeting, there was a teacher that brought this horribly disgusting, inappropriate book into Horizon High School. I received the email this week, and I appreciate that procedures have been put in place so it doesn't happen again. But what happened to that teacher? It appears nothing happened. If not being fired, she should be at least suspended on probation. It seems there's no accountability. And then another issue that we've been talking about is the transgender bathroom issue. I understand that there are kids who are transgender, but they need to have their own bathroom. We cannot have children of the opposite sex coming in and causing potential issues with the heterosexual children. It's not acceptable. A teenage boy doesn't need to have a girl come in the bathroom. I mean, you talk about emotional. Kids that in high school, it's a difficult time and they have problems, and some of them already have issues, and there's depression from COVID, and they shouldn't have to deal with this. And we've seen what happens when boys go into a girl's bathroom. It just seems like a very simple thing. Have a separate bathroom for them and hold these teachers accountable. I appreciate good teachers. They are so important. But when a teacher does something that horrific, they need to be held accountable, just like our children need to be held accountable when they do something wrong. Thank you.
The next card is from Sandra Christensen.
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is Sandra Christensen. I want to start by thanking Dr. Bells for agreeing to meet with me and a small group of parents yesterday to discuss parent concerns that are not addressed by the United Parent Council. As I was contemplating what I was going to say today, I found this little card. I leave these moms in prayer cards for my son when he needs encouragement, and and then you put their name in there. It says, "Lord, I pray," and I put my son's name, "will not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And that's from Romans 12:21. So I was looking at that. It kind of broke my heart because of what happened in the last board meeting. So today I want to talk about accountability for teachers that bring inappropriate materials or assign inappropriate materials in classrooms. So today I stand with Brandy and Tom, who are here today, and all the parents whose children have been exposed to inappropriate materials, including child pornography in our schools. My heart is breaking for these kids, and I'm just wondering, how did we get here? How did we get here? Our job as adults, parents, educators, is to protect children, to educate them, to love them, to enable them to become adults that thrive in our society. But giving porn to a child is grooming, and it's a crime. And I'm calling for any teacher that knowingly gives explicit material to children to be immediately fired and for a criminal investigation to occur. Thank you for your time.
The next card is from David Hickson.
Good evening, Dave Hickson. First, just want to say, Dr. Bells, thank you. Thank you for your transparency and in meeting with some of the concerned parents like myself. That's a great first step, but there's a lot that needs to be done with regard to transparency. Speaking to the United Parent Council meeting that was held yesterday, I, among other parents here, raised a number of questions in the chat which were ignored or effectively censored. And I don't believe that that really furthers the transparency goal. One of my questions was when this Adam Brooks individual said that one of the things he wants to encourage with students is with social media to share some of the positive experiences in social media. And my question, which went unanswered, was, well, why not encourage children to get off social media, to not be on these devices, get outside, play like all of us when we were kids and didn't have these devices, or read a book. And then he went into this, how are we doing, questioning of students and wanting to probe further. Why are the students not wanting to respond further? Well, I can tell you, you know what, maybe the student doesn't want to tell you, the teacher, how they're doing because they feel like it's not your job to explore these psychological questions. Stay out of it. These kinds of issues are for us as parents. And with sex, this Adam Brooks character proudly displaying his tattoo sleeve in his professional picture, which is another weird virtue signal. He wants to do 5 to 10 touches on particular sensitive matters like sexting. Why? I want my teachers to teach my children about math and history and geography and biology. This social emotional learning, what is this all about? Why? Why are we moving in this direction? Well, I can tell you it's this Marxist ideology that's been creeping over our education system for many years now, and it's going to stop. Us patriots, people who believe
Thank you. Your time is up. The next card is from Lee Kimball.
Good evening, Governing Board. I'm Lee Kimball. I'm supposed to be good. My wife has kept me from this podium for a while. I'm a proud product of this school district. I went through Desert Springs, then North Ranch opened, to Desert Shadows Middle School, and I'm a Horizon High graduate, and I still represent Horizon very well, where my kids go. I am extremely disappointed, obviously, in what's been going on with the curriculum. I have voiced those opinions, and the sad part is I feel like it's been falling on deaf ears. This is not difficult. I don't know why we make things so difficult. To be perfectly honest with the parents that are here that are frustrated, I understand your pleas and I understand your frustration. Changes can be made. The sad part is with some of the teachers, they're the same teachers that were there when I was there. Just so you know. These are not different teachers. So when they say that there's a mistake and I see some of these poor parents that have to deal with stuff on social media, I'm grateful I'm not on it. To be honest with you, like that father said, that is the best thing. Get your kids off social media. You'll see a difference in their lives. But the most important thing is to see that these teachers are the same. And they've taught a certain way for a long, long time. And the material is similar. And yet the books that we're bringing in are filth. And there's no reason for it. I should not have a daughter of mine be crossing out material in a book. And the reason why she crossed it out was not for herself, because she's old enough to kind of handle and learn things that she thought was inappropriate. It's because she thought that her sister was going to grab at her younger sister who's coming up in the next years to take that same book. What are we doing when our children are having to police the books for their younger siblings? It's a shame. And these books should never have been there. They've never been approved. We were told over a year ago that this would never happen again, that changes were going to be made. So you can understand why maybe we're a little frustrated, and maybe why we understand why this thing isn't going to happen, because we hear the same thing coming back to us. Oh, it was a mistake. We have things in place now. We'll make changes. Once again, like it's been brought up, there's been no accountability. Something has to be done. And it seems to be, there seems to be common denominators, and everywhere we go, those things need to change. And I pray that you look into your material, the people that you're dealing with, the people that are in charge of these things. There has to be changes. And some of the teachers are fantastic. I love them. I love a lot of my teachers, including one of the teachers that came up here. It broke my heart that she came up here and spoke. I know she was trying to protect her department. My daughter loves her, but she's wrong. She's wrong. Those books do not belong in that program. Any teacher that read that book and thinks it's okay is wrong. Those aren't appropriate for our children. And I know that because I've read these books and been there.
The next card is from Kerwin Franklin.
I just want to say that a lot of these parents I don't know and I don't communicate with, and I'm very happy and blessed to be here with all of you tonight. Yay. So You've Been Publicly Shamed was issued for an 11th grade summer reading. Brian Morgan, the English teacher at Horizon. Jan Perizic, English teacher at Horizon. It was also verbally supported at the last meeting by Rachel Prince, head of English department at Horizon. It's important that all parents know that Dan Corson sent an email that this would be removed in 2019. That is critical information. And to say it's a mistake, it's ridiculous. That was blatant insubordination based on what I saw on the guidelines for teachers. Those teachers and the head of the department who supports that should be removed immediately. In any other profession, we would have been walked off the job. I work in corporate America. This is unacceptable. I know that I have a mom that taught in this district for 30 years. I am personal friends with her fellow teachers and her former principal. I know that they would all be ashamed of what has happened to this district. I went to school here personally at Arrowhead Elementary School. My mom taught him. It's not an isolated incident. We brought this up before. I want to make sure that you know that when you bleeped that out at the board meeting video last few weeks ago, when parents wanted to hear it, they were appalled that you were okay with a 17-year-old child reading it, but an adult couldn't listen to it on the video. There was a 7th grade book, middle school classroom, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and there's an entire series of it. I'm sure many of you have watched the movies, as R-rated as they are. There's lots of lesbian sex, great violence, sex, gore, torture scenes, graphic descriptions of killing and intercourse, and the book contains the F word 95 times in a 7th grade classroom. There was a serial podcast that a 7th grade teacher decided it was okay to teach. She did send a permission slip, and thankfully the principal's smart enough that once the parent notified him, he stopped it in the classroom. But what is wrong with the teacher that thought that was okay to teach? It referenced that kill that bitch, the bitch is dead. Teenagers having sex, getting any, getting lucky, smoking weed, buying weed, getting high, drug dealers, drug strips, getting stoned, description of manually strangling a girl to death, putting her body in a trunk and burying her in a park, description of finding a condom in a condom wrapper, description of a man accused of streaking and exposing his penis to a woman. How is this acceptable? You could literally look at these books, these podcasts in 2 minutes and just do a web search and figure this is not appropriate for children. It is criminal behavior. I have 3 requests to the board. Review your teachers' policies and consequences we have in place. Immediately protect our children. They are why we are all here today. They are why the teachers are here. Identify where the books and materials are. And last,
The next card is from Eddie Jackson.
Good evening. Eddie Jackson, father of 4, including 1 teenage daughter. And I'm here to take over where the message from the district left off about the pornographic book assigned to Horizon students. This assignment was not a human error. This book is not fiction. It contains actual pornographic websites, films, and actor names. The book was used to sexually groom children. Furnishing harmful materials to a minor is a Class 4 felony. To the teachers, Brian Morgan, Jay Parizek, and department lead, Rachel Prince, that assigned this book to students, your actions violate Arizona revised statutes and will not be tolerated. We are reporting this to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office for a criminal investigation. This book is just the tip of the iceberg. To any other staff member that has pornographic books or materials in their classroom, curriculum, classroom library, or school library, these types of materials will not be tolerated and should be removed immediately. I have right here the assignment with their names on it. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out who assigned this book. They need to be arrested and they need to be fired. Thank you.
The next card is from Raquel Kimball.
I don't want to get emotional, guys, because I watched the news clips 2 weeks ago and it broke my heart because I made a comment the year before about a similar book that was on an unauthorized list on a committee that I serve to kind of protect the teachers, the parents, and students so situations like this didn't happen. And I try it the nice way. I email, I talk to the principal, I beg, I say, what can we do? I have all my emails, like this much big. You can go through all of my emails, and I was polite, I was kind, I was concise, I provided facts. And that, what happened with the news, what happened tonight, when I'm hearing all these parents that are saying all these things, my dear teachers that I love because they had taught my kids, they helped my daughter to graduate #1 on her class. It breaks my heart that we have to go through these guys when it could have been solved last year. When Dr. Carson, when you promised me that that book wasn't going to be taught again, that it was going to be taken care of, and then I find out that the same exact book was assigned again the following year, it broke my heart. Then I find the book that my daughter told you about it, and then I found out that that book was also taught the year before. And then I just feel, what is it worth it, everything that I did? What was it worth it? All my service or helping. So hopefully I could be a voice when all it was done was nothing because the books were assigned. I had something else written that I am not going to read to you guys. But the only thing that I wanted to read to you guys is the policy for this district is as follows. AP teachers may teach a title that is not on the literature list if it meets College Board policy, but must notify the principals and parents prior to assigning the material. If a novel is assigned that contains sensitive content, information about the sensitive nature of the novel needs to be communicated in writing to parents, and an alternative title needs to be offered. Summer projects should not include books that have sensitive content. No parents were notified, a sensitive book was assigned, and no alternative title was offered. The only alternative was given to them when I once again raised an issue in the beginning of July. There was time to remove the book, and it was not removed. They promised me that they were not going to be tested on them, and they were tested. I just want to know what it's going to take for us to stop this madness, to protect our teachers, because we have great teachers. We have great students and we have great parents. And all I'm asking, can we start working as a district to protect our children and to educate them, to create people like my husband? He's a product of this district, like this police officer here, like all these great people. Can we start doing that and stop focusing on things that don't matter? Thank you.
Next card is from Alicia Smalling.
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is Alicia Smalling. I am a member of the community of the PVUSD. My students or my children do not attend your schools for obvious reasons we all know of the past few years. I am here to support my fellow parents that are going through horrible things in your district. They asked for masks to be optional and you required them. They asked their students to be in person learning and you kept them home. They asked for curriculum that had in SR or CRT content and you to not be adopted and you adopted it anyways. Now there is the book that has pornographic content inside of it and nothing's done. It was a mistake. There needs to be action done. This is unacceptable. And I mean, all you need to understand too is this involves the community. It involves my family because I live here. My children will grow up with these children. Do you understand that? We are all affected by the decisions that you guys are making. And it's infuriating as a parent that's not even in your district. My kids don't even go here, but I live here. And I hear from these parents what is happening. I can't believe it. Your schools are going to be empty. We will flip this board and put people here that will listen to parents. Amen. And understand what parents are going through and care about the children and care what they are learning. It is indoctrination, what you guys are approving to be taught in schools, and it needs to stop. This is the future. The children are the future of this country. Do you realize that? Yes. They are the future of this country. I mean, kind of went off my notes, but the children deserve better. Families deserve better, and this country deserves better. Thank you.
The last card is from Christy Weems.
Hello, Christy Weems. I would also recommend that if Dr. Corson knew these materials, that's also investigated criminally, because if there's been promises of that being taken out and you don't follow up on that, you ought to be criminally investigated as well. And anybody else up here who might have been involved in improving that garbage. You know, it's shocking to see you all take the Pledge of Allegiance in the, before we start these meetings, when you're allowing pornography to go on. How can you pledge allegiance to America when you pledge allegiance to Satan, when you're allowing pornographic material to go on? You should be ashamed of yourselves. A couple months ago, I attended a school board meeting. After that, I spoke with one of you board members, and she said the district has not considered if there are more parents who prefer mandates than those who do not. So they're just you're all gonna do whatever you wanna do. Well, here's the org chart. The parents are your boss. You do not answer to the federal government. You do not answer to the teacher unions. You answer to us. Today, the district sent out a letter saying they're no longer going to quarantine kids if they wear a muzzle, like you all have on so compliantly. So stupid. We demand that, you said you, in the first 10 weeks, you learned a lot. Well, we demand to see what research you conducted, what it was peer reviewed with, and what those results were. Because otherwise it's just a load of crap, your research. You're not going to medically do any medical testing on my kids. You're not going to quarantine them, and you're not going to put a mask on them for 8 days. I won't comply, and neither will other people. You guys have proven time and time again that you are incapable of doing your job that you've been elected to do. And I call on all of you to resign, and we will put together a board that cares about the families, cares about the kids, cares about the teachers. This is month after month after month of you just all sitting there. Nothing is changing. We don't want masks. We don't want quarantine. We don't want vaccines. We don't want lies. We don't want CRT. We don't want SEL. And to say it was a mistake, clearly was no mistake. And I might mention as well that Merrick Garland, the U.S. Attorney General, and his family are involved in the creation of the CRT curriculum and are profiting off of that.
Next on the agenda is Superintendent's comments. Dr. Bales.
This week is American Education Week, which celebrates public education and honors those who make a difference in ensuring that our children receive a quality education. Yesterday was our Education Support Professionals Day, and Friday is Substitute Teachers Day. I'd like to recognize our ESP employees and substitute teachers for their contributions to our district. Our thanks to all of them. We recently celebrated the completion of 2 construction projects with a ceremonial ribbon cuttings at Sky Crossing Elementary and Roadrunner School. These projects were funded by voter-approved bonds and would not have been possible without the continued support of our community. We'd like to thank our community and voters for supporting public education and the students in PV schools. Another way that our community can support our schools is through providing feedback during our strategic planning process. We are currently in the process of updating the strategic plan and will be providing updates and information at pvschools.net. The updated plan will consist of a new vision statement, mission statement, reaffirmed core values, portrait of a graduate, and more. Tomorrow, we'll be sending a short survey to our community, to our staff, to our families through email and social media. This survey will help us make some important decisions about the new vision and mission statements for our district, as well as attributes of a portrait of a graduate. Thank you in advance for taking a few minutes of your time to participate in this survey. Registration is now open for the 12th Annual PV Schools Community 5K Run. The last day to register for the event is February 1st. The race will be virtual again this year, and you can complete the 3.1-mile run or walk with family and friends anytime between February 1st and February 8th. Registration details are available in the news section of pvschools.net. Earlier this week, I did send a letter to our families expressing my apologies for advanced placement summer reading assignment at one of our high schools. We agreed the book assigned to the students was inappropriate for high school reading assignment. Though we believe it's important to balance preparing AP students for college-level academics, it's equally important to provide appropriate age materials and coursework. Again, I offer my apologies. Moving forward, we have immediate and short-term steps to respond appropriately. Some of those steps were described in the letter, and I encourage you to read it. PV Schools is taking action such as immediately reinforcing procedures that require notification to parents and administration when a book is not on the district's approved list and is intended to be used in the classroom. That notification will now better highlight information about any sensitive content that is included in the book. We take seriously the responsibility to give parents notice of sensitive information and optional material if requested. We also believe in providing students the rigor and challenge with the appropriate balance. During the first 10 weeks of school, we've continued to learn a lot about the impacts that quarantining had on our students and school system. In line with evolving response to the pandemic and after consulting with the Maricopa County Department of Public Health, we did revise our quarantine protocol following the Thanksgiving break. Beginning November 29th at our middle and high schools, regardless of whether a COVID positive case is wearing a mask or not, close contact students wearing a mask will no longer need to quarantine, provided they remain symptom-free. This new practice will begin in our elementary schools following the winter break on January 3rd. Additionally, we will introduce a test to stay option at our middle and high schools beginning November 29th. A close contact student not wearing a mask may test and return with a negative result, provided they wear a mask for an 8-day period following exposure. Students who test to stay must remain symptom-free. This strategy will be available regardless of whether the COVID positive case is wearing a mask or not. This new practice will also begin in our elementary schools following the winter break, and we continue to offer parents a choice. We're implementing these strategies as part of a multi-layered approach to mitigation protocols. This approach begins with everyone making a personal commitment to complete a self-assessment every day and refrain from coming to work or school if COVID-like symptoms are present or awaiting a COVID-19 test result. We remain committed to monitoring new guidance from public health officials and making decisions that keep kids safe and in school. As always, we'll continue to monitor and then adjust our response as necessary. Next week, we'll celebrate Thanksgiving holiday, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. This time of year is a great opportunity to remind ourselves of the need to work together and treat one another with mutual respect. We may not always agree, but we do not have to be disagreeable. We can listen, understand, and compromise as we navigate these challenging times together. Our focus must remain on what's best for students. I'd like to thank everyone here tonight, those watching online, and the entire PV Schools community for your cooperation, continued support for our students and staff in the many journeys of excellence here in PV Schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bales. Next on the agenda is item H1, consideration approval to renew existing contracts. I won't say the numbers at the moment, and I will turn that over to Dr. Bales.
President Greenberg and governing board members, this agenda item is presented in 3 parts. We recommend all 3 parts with a revision to item 1A. It should say 4 of 5 in the term column, not 3 of 5 in the term column. I would also like to mention that we provided the governing board members with information as to what vendors on item 1A we currently use from the contract and what vendors we use on this list from other cooperative agreements. That information is also available to the public if requested through Ms. Berrigan. She has those available tonight. Vendors look at this document as well as other districts. We do not want to influence or promote one vendor over another. The cooperative agreement is simply provides a list of vendors who meet certain criteria to be on the list. Using the same analogy, of human resources and a selection process, creating a vendors list is like creating a list of applicants. And anyone choosing to use a vendor from the list must do their due diligence, reviewing references and conduct a background check. Procurement statutes protect the district and the taxpayer dollars, and that's why we have to have vendors to choose from on a list. We recommend approval with the noted correction as the 4th year of the term versus the 3rd.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion, we have one comment card, and that is from Wendy Muller.
My name is Wendy Mahler. I appreciate you taking the time to look into this. I did want to provide some further information. I asked that if this is a overall vendor, that you really do look at what you are going to be using in the schools for the teacher enrichment. And maybe to be more transparent is to let the parents know what the teachers are actually doing. We have no idea. For years, I've been saying to many parents, and many parents say the same thing back, we don't know what the teachers are doing on these half days. We really don't. But I did look into some of these vendors, and I hope that you look at them the same. For instance, CORE, we believe in social justice. We believe that compassion drives performance. New Leaders Alumni School, equity-focused leadership. The Peak Fleet, we are committed to equity and justice. We believe in Black Lives Matter, to listen to voices that have been silenced and marginalized, to do the work as allies. Our capacity as facilitators and human resources consultants to drive essential change. Ending the systemic racism that exists in our society will take persistence. We must stand up against racism. We must repair and heal the wounds of centuries of oppression. That's a vendor. Catapult Learning. they talk about educational disproportionality. So one of their courses, if I can get my page to open, is to correct these inequities. IDEA requires states to identify districts with significant disproportionality or for any racial ethnic group in a special education suspension or placement in more restrictive settings. Capturing kids' hearts. They talk about restorative practices, SEL, equitable, through experiential training, expert coaching, and SEL curriculum for students and personalized support. Extraordinary educators, they teach a program with social emotional learning, restorative practices, and equity. Kagan teaches emotional friendly teaching, SEL. There's a bunch more in here. KOI, they have a cultural responsiveness, explore, discuss, and collaborate on the issues of implicit bias, equity, and disproportionality, discover culturally responsive practices, and explore equitable approaches. Nearpod, their mission, we believe in education as a path to a more equitable world. Central to this, we know teachers are critical to students' learning.
Yeah, Ms. Berrigan, would you please provide a copy of that list to Ms. Moeller? Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Case, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Matura?
I did have a chance to talk with Dr. Corson today, and I've met with our professional development team before, and I feel like we are lucky in our district to have the professional development as something that is important to us, because that's how teachers learn new things, learn how to use new curriculum, teach them the best strategies when new math curriculum comes in, or things like that. So I appreciate that we do place a priority on that. And something, when I was talking with Dr. Corson, and you can let me know if I'm misstating some of these things, but in general, my understanding and the way that professional development works is that a company may offer so many different types of professional development. But if we are looking for professional development on a new math curriculum, then that would be the one company may offer 10 different types of professional development, and we would contract with them solely for the math curriculum portion, and that's what would be offered to the teachers. So it's like a menu of items even within each of these options of the companies. So when professional development is offered, then they first will look to see who to start the process of vetting, then go to that company, vet those companies individually, and then look at which parts of the professional development would be appropriate for our teachers to be using. So each time professional development is offered, it goes through this entire process. Am I correct in remembering?
Ms. Mature, that is correct.
Okay. So I feel confident that there's many layers of going through and making sure that each piece that is offered is very specific to what the needs are for our kids, so that our teachers can be prepared to be working with our students. And our students, we have diverse students across this entire district. There are different needs. Teachers have different needs. Teachers who have been a new teacher has a different need from a teacher who's a 20-year veteran. So there's always going to be different levels of professional development needed. And I appreciate that we have these options, and that we do have a staff that looks into each one of these and gives opportunities to our teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Matura. Does any other, Mrs. Case?
So in looking at these lists, we use very few of these. The list is long. Can we have an explanation again why the list is longer than what we use? I think you talked about it last time.
I did. Ms. Berrigan, would you like to give a different version? Give it a attempt for me.
Happy to. Thank you, Dr. Bales and Mrs. Case. When we engage in these contracts, we go through a process that is really more a business-related process, and they are meeting the needs and qualifications for, in some cases, or in this case, staff development and leadership training, or you see on here RFP 1918 regarding locks and door hardware. They are meeting the qualifications that are on there from a business perspective. There is then a second piece to the process in which within our district, if we have a department or school site that wants to engage with that vendor, they will review and determine if those meet the curriculum needs, or in this case, whatever maybe our door hardware or locks might need for those purposes as well. So that is the second piece to the process. So we'll have vendors on there that meet the business part of the need, but we may not use or engage with them in the district because they don't meet other needs.
So who makes the determination if of the type of learning that will come from that we use? Who makes that determination?
President Greenberg, Mrs. Case, and governing board members. As always, what drives our decisions are basically our strategic goals. How do we come back to supporting our student achievement goals and such? So our administrators responsible for the funding sources that would pay for services or such are responsible for doing that screening and working that process like I described in that selection process of an applicant pool, right? So if they're going to look for a vendor to provide XYZ, they have to go from a list that's been approved, right? We have one GPA, we have Mojave, we have different procurement lists that identify the contractors that are available. We protect the taxpayer dollars so that a person in charge of a fund doesn't just go pick their neighbor. We have to use people who have been approved on a list. So they've met the criteria as Ms. Berrigan described. But beyond that, then they have to do their own vetting and screening. And that selection process begins with what are the needs? Do they support our district's mission, vision, goals as it relates to student achievement? We have really narrowed our focus to be really focused on the core instructional areas.
So in looking at this list, we don't use many of these, but other districts could be choosing them, and that's why they're on the list, because we're not buying just for our district. It's like a co-op, and we're doing the purchasing for many districts, but we ourselves use very few of the resources. Does that kind of synthesize that down?
That's correct. And we take the effort as a large district, and we have the resources to lead and develop the cooperative agreement. And in return, when other districts make a selection off of this approved list, we do receive a financial benefit from that.
Okay,
that's one of the ways we can develop resources, revenues.
Right. And so, I mean, we're only using the ones in bold, and an asterisk is used to identify current PVUSD vendors, and a bold identify current PVUS vendors. So, and there's very few of them.
That is correct. We've actually identified for you those that are on the contract that we actually use from a different contract. So there's multiple. Mojave is another group that has approved vendors. They go through that. So Ms. Berrigan, is there anything I'm missing in that explanation?
I would just say, I heard the word that we do the purchasing for other districts. We do not do the purchasing for other districts. We do the procurement for the other districts.
Excuse me.
They're going to have to buy their own stuff.
We make up the list, and then they get a pick from it. Is that
correct?
Procurement?
Yes.
Definition, kind of, sort of?
Yes.
And a simplified version?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So, and with all the parental input, I'm sure that we'll be more careful in who we are using and the material used within it. I would support us being very careful of the agenda in some of the programs, and we will continue to look at these things. Is that kind of the direction we're headed in?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Mrs. Bacon?
I just want to thank our staff for putting together this list and identifying the vendors that we currently use. I think this is helpful. My other question is, if there is if a principal makes a decision to use a supplemental materials at their site, and and students will be experiencing that. Parents certainly can call and ask the principal what supplemental materials are being used and be able to look at that information prior to their child being exposed to it, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is one little step towards transparency. It's not going to solve all of our problems, but if you're a parent and you want information about what supplemental information is being used, ask your principal for that information. If you're not getting it, then you need to let district office know what's happening. And I think I understand that we can't change what's happened in the past. Hopefully we can change what's going forward in the future. I think we are all committed to that. And I appreciate Dr. Bales moving forward in that direction at this time.
Mrs. Case?
So I have spoken to various parents and they have let me know something that was said or done at a school, and we're trying to make sure that any materials used are off an approved one and that parents are made aware of what the program is going to be before they use it, and continue to teach us what is going on. And I myself, I will be more mindful of those programs being used, but we don't use a lot of what's on the approved list. We're going to be very mindful and watching that, making sure that we're only using material that is appropriate. So you have my commitment on that. And I know we have Dr. Bell's commitment on that. And it sounds like Mrs. Bacon is committing toward that too, that we want to make sure that only good materials is used. So keep informing us, and we'll we want our principals to inform before materials are used and let you have that preview of it. And we learn from parents all the time. I'm always learning from parents, and I appreciate you speaking up so that I can understand more. Thank you.
If no one else has any other questions or comments, all those in favor of approving the motion to renew these contracts, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is consideration to approve purchase from a current cooperative contract. I'll turn it over to Dr. Bales.
Thank you, President Greenberg, governing board members. This item is intentionally presented to you as an approval item tonight to continue to operate with transparency and accountability. This is an opportunity to thank the voters, because this item is approved from a different fund than the ones we talked about regarding the school at Roadrunner and Sky Crossing. So Ms. Berrigan, would you please present?
Thank you, Dr. Bales and President Greenberg, governing board members. This approval item for H2 is the district seeking approval for the purchase of 10 White Fleet vehicles to be used throughout the district in distribution, facilities, and transportation. These vehicles will replace older vehicles with high mileage and others with mechanical issues. The Transportation Department obtained quotes from Sanderson Ford utilizing the Arizona state contract as the procurement method. And I would just reiterate Dr. Bales' appreciation to our voters. With that district additional assistance override, $450,000 annually can be used toward the purchase of White Fleet vehicles, and we appreciate the voters' support for that. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Berrigan. May I have a motion, Ms. Case?
So moved.
Any discussion? Ms. Matura?
I have a question about the vehicles that we replace. What is the process for us when we unload vehicles, or do we trade them in? If that's the case, does this pricing reflect that, or does that show up somewhere else on the balance sheet? Or do we sell them? Do they go to auction? How do we handle these vehicles, and is it different, the ones with mechanical issues versus the ones that are just seeing high mileage? And we're preemptively making sure that we don't have to spend excess money on fixing things beforehand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Mature. There are two options we usually engage with. One is to trade the vehicles in, the other is to go to auction. In this case, all of the vehicles being replaced here are going to auction. It seems like at this point in time, the district can have a larger financial benefit by going to auction. There is a shortage of vehicles out there, so we hope to obtain good pricing for them.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is ratification of vouchers. Mrs. Case, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg, I will abstain as I always do when there's a payment to the Arizona School Boards Association.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bacon. Motion passes majority with one abstention. And last on our agenda is acceptance of gifts and donations. As always, we thank all of our donors, and we have quite the list here, but I'd like to point out several large donations we received. Yardi Systems gave $8,250 to the PV Family Resource Center for unrestricted direct support to PVUSD families. Country Financial CC Services gave $1,500 for the STEAM program at Pinnacle Peak Prep. Dorito Partners gave Toys Prizes bookmarks worth $1,000 for the PBIS program at Sunset Canyon. The Paradise Valley, PV Schools Education Foundation gave another round of $5,000 each to North Canyon, PV High School, and Shadow Mountain High School towards dual enrollment AP exam and IB fees for students. And Honor Health gave the district adult face masks and youth face masks for district use at a value of $227,680. So that was over $227,000 worth of masks. We thank all of our donors. Honor Health, that was amazing, and PV Foundation, as always, that was incredible. And Mrs. Case, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have no items for discussion this evening, so before I ask for a motion to adjourn, again, just want to wish everybody an incredibly happy Thanksgiving next week. Mrs. Case, may we have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. We are adjourned.